Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
I don't know if you heard that, class, but Jason said, I was chatting with Jason just before the broadcast and started, and he said, hey, here we go. And I said, do we have to? And he said, yeah, we do. Yep, we do. Here we are. Everyone all set, cocked, locked. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us. And our son, said to me a few days ago, he said, Dad, they don't use dials. They don't use dials anymore. They're digital displays. I'm delighted to be broadcasting with my dear friend, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Welcome, Rick.
Good morning, Vietnam. Well, I don't know. Yeah. I thank Jason for his services, and Jason said, I'm being paid. And I said, yeah, no, but not for those bullet holes. Because it's a war zone out there in every orifice and action. And I can just imagine what Jason has to go through with all the different things he does each day, not just with May and you, but all of it.
Well, I have to tell you that I believe, I can sort of prove this, and I can't prove it about all of GCN, but I can say that Jason does not have to deal with the amount of abuse, certainly at USA Prepares. He doesn't have to deal with that. Other broadcasts, and I don't mean GCN. I'm singling GCN out of this equation. But I have heard.
I know exactly what you're referring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honey.
Yeah. So
remember
the class.
That scene in the Great Race in this little town called Baracha, and I think it was in New Mexico or someplace where the Great Leslie and Dr. Fate. No, you don't remember the Great Race.
No. Well, I don't think I've seen this.
You haven't seen. You must see the Great Race with Dr. Fate and the Great Leslie, with who was married to it's Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon, and they're racing across the world in vehicles called the Great Race, and they end up in Arizona trying to see who's got the fastest car.
Okay, well, I just wrote it down, the Great Race.
Oh, you have not seen that? That is a classic of classics with the Dr. Fate and the Great Leslie, with Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon.
Okay. Well, what I was saying.
Comes out kind of like in Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom, and she sings, whirling out on stage, anything goes.
So what I was saying, Rick, is that here at USA Prepares, we don't have these out of control callers. We don't have them, and other broadcasts on other networks do, and literally they have a list. They ban people from calling it. They say you're banned. There's nobody that's banned from calling USA Prepares, and it's really interesting that the tone that we have, I guess, encourages people like us and discourages people who are not like us.
You mean trolls? The ones that live under bridges? Or those are orgs? Excuse me.
Yeah, well, we have, on the internet we have trolls because there's no barrier to entry on the internet.
Have you noticed how now the new upgrades and Thunderbird and Microsoft and, all of these things, they got Microsoft Edge now. What does that mean? Well,
it means they have the edge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Any time you have upgrades, those in the hacker world are called backdoors. And so whoever has to upgrade more frequently has more backdoors, as a metaphor. They're not patches. They might call them patches, but I remember patches as a clown on TV. So with that said, I don't know what's going on, and no wonder I'm a paranoid.
Well, I don't think it's paranoia. I think it is being judicious and being careful and being
I don't know about
situationally
you going down
aware.
The Mekong Delta with jumping jack flash, and paranoia will destroy you. You know, I've been there and done that. How's that one for a memory? You know,
Rick, I got it.
The Mekong Delta. That now, I have friends that are living there now. That fought there, married a woman there, and decided to live there than here. And I have a friend that does a kayak, and he did a 3-day. Oh, it's so beautiful where he went. There's nobody there. It jungles on his kayak, going down these little inlets and things in Thailand.
Well, pretty soon you'll be able to do that.
You realize that Thailand's king just reinstated his consort, which is not his wife. And it goes downhill from there. None of it's real. I mean, it's all...
Pretty soon you'll be able to go down Madison Avenue, New York City, or Fifth Avenue with a kayak, in a heavy rain, and not bump into anything.
Yeah.
And you won't bump into anything. No taxi cabs, no people, no cars. There's a great exodus going on. But I wanted to share this with you. So
City is dead. And this thing I posted last week about Seattle made me cry.
Well, tell us about it, Rick.
Well, nobody lives inside the city limits anymore because it's been taken over by the homeless. And every single person that's homeless has some form or level of addiction. Now, addiction has a broader terminology than it did back in Tombstone with the Earp Brothers. And so it's got a different style today in terms of Doc Holliday and Winona Earp. Have you seen that Netflix one? Or The Umbrella Academy?
No. I have not been watching. Much on other than DVDs. I haven't. But I wanted to share this with you.
Well, The Great Race. You must see The Great Race. Trust me.
I wrote it down.
Yeah.
I wrote it down, and it has an asterisk next to it. Okay. So I went on, let me give you a little background, class. So we've been a member of Sam's Club for years, and I have learned to like Sam's Club less and less and less and less every single year. It's gotten really lousy, especially with the Corona panic. They don't have things, they're out of things. And what's happened is the way it works is, you pay $35 to become a member. Then you can buy in bulk. Well, we've been doing that for 27 years. Eventually, it got so bad they decided to offer me the upgraded membership, the $100 membership, which includes free shipping, free car washes, if you want, and a higher return on your credit card purchases called cashback, 1%, or you can get 5% back on gas. So it'd be crazy for me not to use this particular Sam's Club card to buy gasoline. So when the family buys gasoline, we take the Sam's Club card, and that's the card that we use to buy gas wherever we are. And we still get 5% back up to like $600 or $6,000 a year, something like that. All right. And so I use my Sam's Club card to purchase online because I get free shipping on some items. They say it's free shipping on everything, but it's not. That's a lie. But that's another story. Bottom line is I use my Sam's Club card, and what happens is I get an email, and I'm going to read it to you. This email I've got a whole bunch of these in the last couple of days. It says, "Dear Vincent, thank you for your recent order at samsclub.com. As mentioned in our previous notices, we've been unable to obtain authorization for this purchase using your submitted method of payment. Please contact your credit card company to request an explanation of the purchase decline and possible resolution. Once this issue has been resolved, please contact a member services representative select the menu options. Okay, and he gives me a phone number. So I've done all that many, many, many times. And the credit card company says, "Oh no, you got a really great credit rating. You have, you pay your bill every month. There's no outstanding anything. The credit card works fine." But Sam's Club says it doesn't. But the credit card does work fine outside of samsclub.com. It doesn't work at all at samsclub.com. So when I buy something, let's say it's a $5 item, which I bought several times in the last couple of days, $5 item, just to see if this thing works. And I get these emails saying, first I get a confirmation saying, "Congratulations, your purchase went through. You're the proud owner of whatever it was." And now, right after that, a couple hours later, I get, "It didn't work. Contact your credit card company." So I'm in this circular, this loop where I can't get it fixed. Because the credit card company said, which is Sam's Club's credit card. It says right on the front, Sam's Club, issued by Synchrony Bank. Synchrony says we're fine. Sam's Club says we're fine. Sam's Club says the website works, but it doesn't work. So the bottom line is we are being held hostage by technology. We absolutely are. And how do you fix this? We can't fix this. Because if you want to go fix the credit card problem, you have to go to Central America or Philippines. If you want to fix the samsclub.com problem, you have to go to the Philippines. It's hard to drive there from here. Now, it's not that they're not nice. They're wonderful people, but they can't fix the problem. It is this American company that's the problem, Sam's Club, and it's gone downhill. Have you noticed anything like that, Rick?
Well, Amazon and Walmart are now at war with each other on food, like they did books. And I have no idea how that's going to play. I remember when Costco started this game, and this is back in the 90s, I grew feverfew down in the Trinity Alps, down there in the Northern California, and I had to ship bales of feverfew to China to capsulate and tablet for Centrum and their other brand. I think it's called, I forget what the brand is now. It's their cheaper brand. It's the same as Centrum, but they capsulated and tableted it in China and sent it back to the United States. Now, that's two different freights to China, back and forth, to have it take a product from America and processed into a tablet or Centrum. And what's the other brand that's standard? I can't think of the name of it now.
Well, there's one a day. There's
not one a day. No, it's a generic one, a big company. They're cheap.
Okay. Nature's Way.
No, Nature's Way is Mormon. That's out of Utah. Nope, that's the Mormons. They have their own systems out of Provo, and that's Mormon.
But what I believe you're saying is that how is it possible for
that's exactly correct.
The shipping back and forth.
A pharmaceutical house in the United States costs more money to tablet and capsulate.
So last night, I was in a deep, deep sleep. And a lot of times I'll say to the family, well, let me think about it. I'll have the answer tomorrow. And when I sleep on it, I can usually come up with the answer. So last night, I was in this dream state. And I was all excited because I figured it out. I got the answer. And I remember the answer. The answer was the voltage was too low. And I was thinking, this is great. I got to remember this. The voltage is too low. The voltage is too low. I need to increase the voltage a little bit and it'll be fixed. But I can't now, when I woke up, I can't remember what the problem is. I know what the answer is, but I don't know what I need to increase the voltage on. Does that ever happen to you, Rick?
Brain cloud by any other name. Never mind. That's Rosina Rosanna. Actually, that's why I keep a journal. It is called my magical memory. It is a way of time travel, believe it or not. That's exactly why you keep a journal and why Ira Progoff called it honest journaling. It's going from right to left brain so that you have to take an idea that's in the right brain, move it to the left brain with cursive. That's one of the things they no longer teach because, dumbing down America, whatever. The thing is, everybody needs to keep a journal of some kind, even if it's on the computer where you have a running what happened today kind of thing that you log as a thing. Because when you log it like that, it changes it from short to long-term memory. And when you go back 20 years to look at what you wrote, it is a form of time travel. And it sets the brain up in the precise hologram that was going on at that moment. And you re-remember things that you had forgotten or dismissed as unimportant. And what happens next is a kind of script evolves, which is uniquely yours, between you and yourself, which is different than anybody else's in the way you talk to yourself. And why you want to do that is because when you talk to yourself inside your head, how do you know that that's you, not synthetic telepathy? Now, they're encroaching in technologies, plural, where brain interfaces do not need to be inserted inside the brain anymore. They can deliver it using microwave band. They can deliver it by the food you eat. They can deliver it. This is a paper I wrote a couple years back called The New Directions in Mind Control. It is one of the chapters in my non-local mind book that's due out shortly. But you need to be aware. And here's the most important thing I can say about all of this. All roads lead to Rome, but you must have a North Star to know what direction you're going. And everybody's North Star is different. A circle of protection when you're going to use a Ouija board. You're going to be consorting or dialoguing with something you have no idea where that information came from. Tarots, throwing the I Ching, whatever. In all situations, what is needed is a switch that you turn on and off when you go from the profane into the sacred. And when you're in that sleep state where you're remembering what to remember, that place is actually, in fact, more real than where you are right now in consciousness. And that's why, because consciousness can be likened to a dream state in that you are not receiving information, you're filtering it. And much of that filter is culturally programmed where you have been trained to ignore certain incomes or inputs. And once you realize that, now you start to become your own person. Good luck with that.
All right. We're going to be right back with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. And I've got a couple quick comments about what you just said and the technique that I used in a previous life. We'll be right back. Miller.com, Richard, A-L-A-N, Miller.com. Rick, you were talking about a log to move short-term memory into long-term memory. And I have a couple comments about that. When I was teaching at the high school and the college level, I would tell my students, I would say, and I'm paraphrasing, here's what I'm going to tell you. Then I would tell them, and then I would tell them what I told them. And then the next day, if it was applicable, I would recapitulate what I had just taught them yesterday. I give them a recap version of what I taught them. And I didn't allow them to take notes on a computer keyboard or on a computer, and they did not type their notes as I was teaching. I required them to write in spiral-bound notebooks what they were learning. So if they needed to write down some points of interest and important points of what I was teaching, they would write them in cursive in their spiral-bound notebooks. And it was a one-subject notebook, and it was just for my class. And it was really simple. Now, I believed at that time, and I still do believe, that by telling them what I was going to tell them, that's number one. Telling them, that's number two. Telling them what I told them, that's number three. And then recapitulating tomorrow is number four. And if you add in the notes, that's number five. So that's 5 passes through the brain of what I, the instructor, thought was important for them to know. Not just that, you know.
If you had told them, and I'm going to ask this question on the test and that question on the test, I'll bet you those notes got taken too.
Well, see, I kept my students. Guessing.
It's just the way it is, man.
But
People
Rick,
only listen to what they want to hear.
Well, I kept my students off balance and on guard all the time, and because I would say to them things like, "I'm going to be leaving the classroom for a couple minutes," and I'd be gone for half an hour, and they would have to behave because I had a 3-hour class. Or I'd say, I'm going to be gone for half an hour, and I'd be right back. So they really had to be on guard, and because I kept them off balance all the time intentionally, so that they would learn how to think and behave in my absence. Because Vin Finelli wasn't always going to be there throughout their entire life. My job was to prepare them for life.
I used to have a woman, she taught English literature, and she would announce in the class, if you thought this was democratic, democracy in this classroom, you're wrong. This is jail, and I'm the warden, and when you walk through that door, I have my rules. Everybody looked at her like, what? And it was humor. Mm-hmm. And that is why part of my bucket list includes opening for Saturday Night Live.
Mm-hmm. You really want to do that?
Anything to be able to open for Saturday Night Live. Can you imagine May?
You would be great. You would be absolutely. You would be great. Rick, I have been in your classes, and when you are at either the blackboard or the front of the classroom, whatever it may be, when you're up there out front, your presentation is captivating, and no one is daydreaming. Everybody's paying 100% attention for the entire time that you're presenting.
That's because when you speak, you should try to hit the core of it in metaphor. And that's where everything I say has more than one thing I'm saying at that moment. And why, when you replay what I said, you get something new each time. And if I'm doing it right, it should become classic.
Well, and it has to be a value, yes. And I've, literally, I've been in the middle of the classroom. I've been on the, standing against the wall, just walking in. I'm talking about the expos when, I was the MC, and I'd be checking on the classes to make sure everything was going right, and you had all the materials, and the equipment was working, and the sound system was working, and so forth. So I would be walking in, and all the seminars that were going on simultaneously, doing my job to make sure everything was flowing smoothly. But I got a chance to see you in action many, many times, and I've stayed through, some of your presentations in full. So, content is king. And by the way, Rick, I am noticing that content is becoming more and more lacking in broadcasts.
Yep. Redundancy coefficient. That's Avram Moles. Aesthetic perception and information theory is the title of his book on math.
I heard the bottom of the hour news here on GCN, and Zuckerberg is going to lock down what they think is false information, and they're just going to prevent it. They're going to determine what they think is false and what's not, and so that's censorship. So here we have
freedom of speech. It is one more step in encroachment, and the way Benjamin Franklin put it, you give up some of your civil rights for safety, and you lose both.
Freedoms. Yeah. And, I was thinking, at some point I'm going to have to get my hair cut. Either I'm going to have to do it myself or have one of our children do it or have Mrs. Finelli do it. But I've been thinking, what kind of haircut should I get? And right now, believe it or not, class, Jesus and I have the same barber. So I was thinking, what kind of a haircut should I get? And I was thinking, I should get one just like Mark Zuckerberg. Because, of course, I'm kidding.
You mean throw a bowl on your head and just cut everything else that's not under that bowl, cut it off?
He looks ridiculous with that haircut.
Well, you could be Harpo Marx.
I mean, nobody has a haircut that's more ridiculous than.
Well, what Julie did to me is that I've had a ponytail for 70 years, and that came off 6 months ago, maybe just before the virus happened, and now I'm a skinhead because she just has this razor that just takes it right down to the edge, and that's because I was going bald anyway. But she's using my hair now. That ponytail, I still have it. She used it for a voodoo doll. It's got better control on me or something. I don't know.
Well, I just checked.
Just kidding.
As you were saying, the ponytail, I just checked. I could have right now, if I wanted to, I could have like a 4 or 5 inch ponytail right now.
And that's because that ought to be cool.
That's because I haven't had a haircut since December. I wanted to mention this.
My bridge gone. This is nuts. What's going on?
Mm-hmm. Well, let me share with you a couple of things. So when I was on the phone for hours, different phone calls with the Philippines and Central America with this Sam's Club problem I'm having, at the end of the call, I asked each of the technical support people the question, and remember, this is the Philippines and Central America. So what's the coronavirus like? Is it real down there? Is it real over there? What do you think? And they'd say, well, personally, and not speaking for the company, but personally, they said that, yeah, it's real. And so I would say, do you know people who've gotten it? Yes. Do you know people who've gotten really sick? Yes. I know people who've died. Now, that's in both countries, the Philippines and in this particular country in Central America. And the guy in Central America told me that he had it. He had it. Now, of course, it's not a problem now that he's recovered, but he did have it, and he said he had friends who died. And in the Philippines, they had family members who have died. So I was talking with a couple of technicians.
Their populations are way less than ours, also.
Mm-hmm. And more dense, right?
Yeah. Well, yes and no.
Except in
there's jungles.
Yeah, except in this. Yeah. So I talked with some technical people, medical technical people, yesterday, and I asked them. I was talking with a person who is in radiology. So what do you think? Do you think this is real? Oh yeah, it's real. But the person said, but I think it's being used for an agenda. So everybody at this particular radiology place, this clinic, if you will, wears a mask. Everybody, patients, everybody wears a mask. And there's social distancing, more than 6 feet. So everybody's conscious of what's going on. The doctors wear a mask. They believe it's real. They believe that people are dying. And then the nurses, the same thing. But they believe it's been enhanced for agenda purposes, which is exactly what we said from day one. Yes, the virus is real. Yes, it's dangerous. Yes, it's man-made. But the fallout, the domino effect, as Gwyneth would say.
How many times have you had the flu in your life? Not cold,
just
the flu. You.
a couple, just a couple.
How many?
Maybe 2 at the most.
I've had, I think, maybe 10 times in my history where I've gotten sick, where I was sick for a week, down, with sick for a week, and then back up again. I remember a couple times it was, when I moved here in this house, when I first moved here. Usually, stress is what, when your immune system is challenged. And moving, it's got so many stressors. I have an ebook that I did called Stress Management that's worthy of a download, because what you do is you can add up things to see how, as in terms of events happening to you, to measure against the strength of your immune system. And that's an interesting one, because for moving, there's so many points. And so many points. You break up with your girlfriend, you have a this or that, so many points, and you add them up, and if it's over a certain amount, you can count on getting sick. Now, there's always flu around, and that's one of the reasons why elementary teachers are usually more hardy, because that's where the germ factory begins. It's in grade schools. That's, breeding ground. That's why a newbie doesn't want to go into a grade school, because that's where that's where your immune system is sharpened as a child. And they're taking that away from our children. As one thing that I thought I'd bring out, newsflash. That's not a good thing. That's an important thing for building your immune system, is social interaction. And look at what they're losing by thumb wrestling with computers. Now, I have a totally different thing about it. You can't do an injection on a flu. You can on a specific disease, but a disease is not a flu. And a flu mutates, which means to get an immunization on that is impossible, because it changes.
All right, we'll be right back with Doc Ram, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Website, richardallenmiller.com, Richard A-L-A-N Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R.com. And that's where you can go to buy his books and peruse his offerings. So, Rick, getting back to teaching class, it was my belief that running whatever it is that the students were to be learning, the more times they ran it through the brain, the better. Whether be oral, to hearing it, listening to it, preparing for examinations, preparing for class discussion, taking notes, etc., the better. And if you contrast that to taking notes with a pencil and notebook, or pencil and paper, compared to keyboarding, I believe there's a significant difference. I believe that there's more retention when someone writes it longhand rather than keys it in. What are your thoughts?
Well, you have to, when you do that, it's going from one side of the brain to the other, to take a thought and then put it down to paper. And when you do a transfer across the noodle, which is this little bottleneck there between this and that, there was a comic book that described that process in a comic book called Mother's Oats. And it showed where a thought occurs in the brain and all the different train wrecks to get from a thought in the brain to what comes out of your mouth.
Okay. All right. So I was talking about this with Dr.
Mother's Oats, and wait till you see that one, man. That was during the time of Captain Pissgums.
I was talking about this with Dr. Norm Shealy on Monday. And this term I had never seen before. I'd never learned it before. I've never even used the word before. Nomophobia. So I'm N-O-M-O phobia. And it's a real word. Nomophobia. And it's not jive. It's Nomophobia.
Like slow-mo
And
hydroplane.
9 out of 10 college students have nomophobia. And it's defined as being afraid of being without a smartphone. Now, what's happened with these college students is they use the smartphone for everything. They look up things. And what they found out was that the students' memories is not so good. When they do homework, they generally do much better in their homework assignments because they can look everything up, either on the internet with their phone or on the internet with their computer, and they can find the answers. But what they can't seem to do well on is bring that forward to the test scenario where now they're being asked, okay, so you heard it in class, you did the homework, now what was it? And they can't remember.
I'll tell you, there's another one called state function learning. And you remember something by the way you remembered it. That means if you studied it under pressure, that's your best way of remembering it in an exam.
Okay, so you're talking about those all-nighters that we've all done.
If you're doing an all-nighter, that's how you should be taking your test.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then there was
smoothly and gently. That's how you will best remember it. It's called state function learning. You remember something by the way you originally learned it. Now, there is a metaphor between learning something and studying something. And I had a Tai Chi teacher that would not have accepted you as a student if you went to him and asked him to learn Tai Chi. Why? Because everybody does their kata, Tai Chi, kata, differently. Some people can go down lower. Some people can bend at their waist better. Some people turn differently. Everybody does it differently. And so it isn't that you learn something. What you're doing in Tai Chi is taking someone's process, mine, whatever, my lesson for the day, and integrating it into your own body of knowledge and making it yours. And that's where, when Steve Gaskins in his Monday night class before he started the farm out of Tennessee went to the blackboard and drew the circle up on the blackboard, and he said, it may not be a perfect circle, but it is a perfect whatever it is. There's your metaphor.
All right, so the kata class is, for those of you who are not familiar with that word, it's a term used in studying of martial arts. And it is a series of moves, and you could think of it like a dance. And it's move after move after move after move that
like
is committed to.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
yep.
Muscle memory and mental memory. And when you get in that situation, your mind pushes that button and out comes the kata, which could be deadly in a second or two. So it's a series of offensive and defensive moves. Bang, out it comes. And it's because you have conditioned your body to register that, remember. Instinct. We'll be right back. And I have a comment about I have increased my level of intolerance. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked, hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. I mentioned over the last couple of years that my New Year's resolution was to increase my level of intolerance. And I have been doing that. Easy to do. As a matter of fact, it's hard not to do that because of all the things that are happening, the misinformation, the lies, the deception. And companies are doing it. Now, for example, Sam's Club says that there's free shipping. But when you go to click on it, you find out that item is 2 prices. One price if you pick it up in the store, the other price is if you have it shipped. So it's not free shipping. They raise the price if you want to have it shipped. But they say if you pay them $100 or you have the Plus account, you get free shipping, which is an absolute lie. So that is one of the reasons why I despise Sam's Club. I didn't used to. I used to love Sam's Club. But, with this new management that they have over the years, they've been trying to figure out different ways where they can extract more and more from their members, with each purchase. And that's what they've been doing, in my opinion. So, on that line of thinking, I buy things on the internet. And I didn't want to. We have a chainsaw, and it's made by a company called Husqvarna. It's an old company from the 1600s. And they make one of the best chainsaws. I think the best would be Stihl, S-T-I-H-L, but we have Husqvarna, and probably be second best. If we had it to do all over again, we'd buy Stihl instead of Husqvarna. But we have 3 of them, so we kind of stay with the brand. And the cylinder head fins, the cooling fins, started these hairline cracks on one of these chainsaws. And it's a pretty big chainsaw. It's a farm model. It's not a homeowner's model. It's a pretty big chainsaw. And so they're like $500-600. And I don't want to replace the cylinder head for, a couple $100. I just want to repair the cracks. And so I bought some brazing rods. And these are it's an aluminum head. And I'm going to try brazing the cooling fins with these brazing rods. So I looked on the internet. I went to eBay, and they have all kinds of offerings. And they have them shipped from the United States, like Los Angeles. So I was looking, and I found one, and I particularly like to buy products that come in a package. And I thought, these have flux core. Some of them don't have flux core, so I'll get the kinds with a box, the container that they come in, and I can write on them that they have flux, because that's different from the ones that don't have flux. And so I spent extra to get these, and they're shipped from Los Angeles. It says, location Los Angeles, California. So I get them, and they come folded in half, bent in the shape of a V. Now, these are welding rods that are, let's say, 20 inches long, 18 inches long, and they're folded in half. I'm kind of frosted because it doesn't say, we're going to fold these in half. And you can't use them folded in half. You have to straighten them out. So I didn't like that too much, but I'm looking all over for the box. There's no box. There's no package. They just wrap them in saran wrap and throw them in an envelope, and they ship them to you after they fold them in half. So it's kind of frosted because the sales page for these particular brazing rods, it shows them in a container that keeps them nice and clean. You put them in your toolbox, and they won't roll around with the wrenches and get oily. So I'm looking all over for this container, this box, this plastic. Think of it like a long box with a cap. Well, it's missing. So because I've become more intolerant, I fired off an email, and I said I want to return it. Because it's not what is shown in the picture. The picture shows the brazing rods and the box, this plastic container, the storage container. Well, because I don't have the storage container, I sent off this response, and I clicked on eBay. I want a refund. Okay, I want to ship it back. And I'm not going to pay for it to be shipped back because I didn't falsely advertise it. I didn't commit fraud. The seller did. Here is the email I got back from eBay from the seller. I'm going to read it verbatim. Dear, and there's nothing after the word dear. So that means that this is a boilerplate type of a response. They must have to use this response a lot because it's a boilerplate. Dear blank. And they didn't fill in Vincent. Our registered address is in China, and we have warehouses in the United States. If you are willing to keep the goods, we can provide you with a 20% refund as compensation. If you want to return the goods, we will refund after receiving the goods. And they want to reply. I said, okay, I'll take the 20%. Bottom line is, I will not tolerate companies that lie, misrepresent, and try to cheat me. I won't do it. So my suggestion is that you consider following that example that I've given you. If you are cheated, stand up and don't take it. Okay? So, for example, we've ordered paper from Staples. They have a sale on paper, and it arrives damaged. Why? Because it's not packaged right. So when the corners are smashed and you want to put that paper in your printer, you can't. You cannot do that. So what do? We say, well, it was damaged. Here's some pictures. It's so severely damaged we can't use the paper. We'd like you to reship it and pick up the damage because we don't want it. That's what we do. Rick, are you experiencing anything like that?
Everything's like that. Everything. You can go into Bi-Mart, Walmart, Fred Meyer, any of the big department stores, and they'll have a power alley where things are on sale, like Harbor Freight does. The thing that you have to watch is that when you have all these potato chip bags on sale, if you look down at the sale, it's a different product because they put a different product that looks like it's on sale on the label that's there. Now, that's somebody in the store that is incompetent, but done with intent, because when you go to the register, it's a different price. And you have to be very careful when you pull something off the shelf. It's the same product that's on sale.
Okay, so they did that to us. They had some...
did that to you in an ad. They did that to you in physical location. They did that to you in metaphor.
Yeah. So at Menards, they had a display that had all kinds of seeds, like they had onion sets, and they had these, and it was like $2, and you could buy a bag of them for $2, and they had all different kinds. They had yellow onions, white onions, red onions, and Vidalia onions, and it was $2. And so we said, well, let's get some red and some white and some yellow and some Vidalia. Let's get some of each. And we get home, we look at the receipt, and this was months and months ago, in the good old days. The onions, the Vidalias were $4.99. So we called them up and said, yo, what's up? They said, oh, yeah. They put it in the wrong. Yeah, you're right. It was in the wrong location. And, same company was selling them, same manufacturer, if you will, same packager, same brand, same everything. So the customer wouldn't know that they were different prices, all, under the sign that said $2. So we have to go back to the store one of these days, and they said they'll make it good. We have to ask for Mary. Now, I'm sure Mary will be gone by then, and we'll have to, it'll be a knockout, drag out, but we're going to do it because we're not going to let them get away with it. Because just because they have people who are careless at the store doesn't mean that the customer should pay for the carelessness.
This is why that little bathroom legacy goes in front of the toilet that you read as you sit down. It says there's nothing of persistence over unrewarded genius. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter how smart you are. It's persistence that wins the day.
In Silicon Valley, California, they have a saying that, in order to be successful, and I'm talking about where some of the genius of America comes from, they say it's something like success equals persistence plus innovation plus people. And it's this persistence thing. It's Thomas Alva Edison, trying to make a light bulb. And if you asked him, halfway through it, he'd say, well, I know 400 things that don't work. And at the end, he would say, well, I know 799 things that don't work. And finally, he'd say, I know the one thing that does work, the 800th thing that works. And that's where this persistence comes in. And that's the difference. Rick, this is not bragging. This is just the truth. People are showing up here. They call and they want to bring their cars to be serviced because BMW can't fix them. The sophisticated BMWs, the dealership can't fix them. The other shops can't fix them. And they know that we're persistent and we don't give up and we ultimately come up with the answer. Same thing with Mercedes-Benz. So we have now starting to get this more widespread reputation that we know how to fix these very difficult gremlins, these electrical problems, and these mechanical problems that others cannot fix, even though they've been factory trained to fix it. And what is it? It's this persistence thing. We do not give up. We feel it's a challenge, and if somebody could fix it, why can't we? And we just don't know who those somebodies are. But they used to be able to fix them. And they can't fix them now. And right now, Rick and class, cars have become so complicated that they are almost impossible to fix. Let me give you an example. So right now we have a BMW, top of the line BMW. It's the biggest one they've made. It's a 12-cylinder BMW. Now, many don't know that BMW made a 12-cylinder car. Well, they did. They took two inline 6-cylinder engines, their standard 6, and they stuck them together. And so there's like two side-by-side engines in one package. But they are connected, and it's a 12-cylinder BMW. And this particular model is 1977, I believe. 77, 78, or 79. I think it's 77. It's a 750i. This thing is quirky as can be. And the transmission doesn't shift right. The brakes don't work right. The radio doesn't work right. There's a whole bunch of things that don't work right. And it misfires. So you think misfire, well, that's the engine. It doesn't, the brakes don't work right, so that's another problem. That's separate. That's the brakes. And the traction control system comes on because it doesn't know what it's trying to do, so it's confused, so the traction doesn't work right. And it's rear-wheel drive. So what is the problem? Well, we diagnosed this thing down. Now, it took days to figure this out. There are now this is just unbelievable, class. But when I tell you this, you'll come to the understanding that we have built a society that we can't live with. So here you have a BMW that the engine misfires. It doesn't corner right. It doesn't brake right. It doesn't steer right. It doesn't do anything right. Not even the radio works right. Well, one of the things that happen is the wheel sensors. There's two wheel sensors on the back wheels. And they tell the computer how fast they're going. So if you go into a turn, it applies one of the brakes in the rear. If you go into a hard stop, it applies more pressure to the rear brakes than the front brakes. The wheel sensors are broken, so the car doesn't know what it's doing. So it shuts down the engine. So what I've been trying to explain, class, is that here we have a BMW, and it's their top of the line. You know, the biggest, most expensive one that they make. And it's got a lot of features. And the wheel sensors in the back wheels are, they tell the computer how fast the wheel is turning. So if you're going to a curve toward the left, the outer rear wheel is going to go faster than the inner rear wheel. And there's 48 teeth on this Hall effect sensor. So there's 48 pulses per revolution. And if the computer understands from the sensors that one wheel is turning faster than the other, it will apply one brake, one rear wheel brake versus the other. Okay. It will not shift the transmission, and to prevent you from having an accident, it thinks that it should detune the engine and shut off some of the cylinders. So now you have engine misfires that are related to a rear wheel sensor. You have braking that is non-predictable because of a rear wheel sensor and the computer. So who would have thought that a rear wheel sensor would affect the misfiring of an engine? Would anybody think that? Of course not. But that's how complicated these vehicles have become, because the manufacturers think that you're stupid. They think that you don't know how to drive. And maybe they're right. I'm not talking about our class, but I'm talking about the GDP. Maybe they're right. Maybe they don't know how to drive. So the computer has to take over and make sure you don't put that $100,000 plus vehicle in a ditch. But who can live with this? Who knows how to fix it? Even the dealers are not willing to spend the hours and hours and hours of research to figure out and look at the schematic diagrams, the wiring diagrams, and the block diagrams of how these systems are all interrelated. Rick, what I'm saying is this is way different from your Datsun 280Z.
Well, yeah.
Way
That's
different.
why the educational systems in sciences have compartmentalized individual studies so that you don't have a jack of all trades anymore, and that you require 10 scientists to solve a simple problem because each one does a different part of the arm. And I like that way that kid in Friday another version of Saturday Night Live out of Chicago, Second City, would go, "No, I don't want to." The idea. I remember going to Sky River up in when Janis Joplin got out of a train, and my friend was driving his brand new Cadillac. And we've rolled the windows up, and everybody's running around in the mud. And it's pouring down rain, and he turns on his air conditioning, and we're listening to Janis Joplin singing in the rain with Big Brother and the Holding Company. And I've been there, done that, and watched how technology has compartmentalized so that a given scientist can't solve a certain kind of problem. He has to bring in other disciplines. And that's why, as a physicist, engineers work for physicists. And that's why engineers go by Dick and physicists go by Rick. I'm just kidding.
Well, no, you told me that a long time ago.
It's a metaphor
when we first met,
on what's wrong and where we're going in our society, so that you have no control on anything in your life. And it used to be called chop wood and carry water.
So I looked up the price, manufacturers. I looked up
getting your hands rough because you have to split the wood and carry it in to the fireplace.
Well, that's another thing we talk about. But I just looked up the price of a new 2020 BMW 7 Series. $103,645. And the people who buy these have no idea that they will not be able to live with them.
But
they
boy,
have no
they
idea.
sure like to drive them in California for status.
Mm-hmm. Well, they are really, really sophisticated and really, really complicated. And I got to tell you that if you got one for $500, I'm talking about a used one. Let's say a late 1970s model. I'm sorry, 1990s model. Yeah, the one we're working on is a 1990, I'm sorry. Let's see, about 20 years old. If we got it for $500, that's too much. Dr. Richard Alan Miller's with us, RichardAlanMiller.com, the website, RichardAlanMiller.com. Rick, I've noticed that most people are really lazy. I mean, beyond lazy. And here's some proof of this. And the reason I'm saying this is people who are lazy are not preparedness-minded. So during the summer, when it's really hot out, we get our wood for next year, for heating our house. We get it for next year because we'd like it to be dried out and get the moisture out. Because when you have a lot of wood and you burn tons of wood, you're also burning tons of moisture, which means you have to spend extra wood to boil off the moisture in the wood, which is why you want dry wood. So we try to season our wood at least a year. So in the heat of the summer, when nobody is thinking about heat, that's when we get, we can buy our wood. If we buy it, sometimes we drag it out of the wood, sometimes we buy it, whatever's the most viably economical for us, that's what we do. So I would rather buy the wood for very little money, like $10 a ton for wood, than go to our woods and pull it out, because I look at the wood that's fallen from the trees in our woods as another stockpile. So if I can supplement that and buy wood for virtually nothing, I'll do it. But the time to buy it's in the summer. But people aren't thinking about that. So we're like the only ones who are buying, scrap wood in the summer for like $10 a ton. Now it makes no sense to me, because in 8 weeks from now, people are going to say, "Hey honey, it's getting kind of chilly. You want to turn the heat on?" That's what's going to happen. But they don't remember that. And it happens every year. Every single year around November, or in this part of the world, the heat goes on because it starts getting cold. But people don't remember that from last year or the year before or the year before. Rick, we are getting dumber by the second. Now, do you think that, and we didn't used to be like this, because people would say, "Well, I better get your wood." I'm talking like 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, people would say that. "Better get your wood in because it's going to get cold this winter." People don't do that anymore. They think heat comes from the thermostat.
My neighbor, Clinton, was here before, during, and probably after I will be where I live. He grew up here. His father owned the land. They subdivided it. It subsequently had In-N-Out Burger and, moving the different people through. And Clinton had been here before, during, and after. And the first thing that Clinton did when I moved in, as a greeting for me, is he brought me over a cord of split wood and stacked it without even saying anything to me. He just stacked it and left. And that was the way my neighbor said hi to me. Now, old school values aside, I think that your neighbor is going to be the person that saves your life when and if things get crispy. And nobody knows whom they live next door to because of the way our society has become and the transientness of individuals and the way they move from one place to another, going to college, getting married, and whatever. And I have always appreciated the idea of family, and my family's fragmented. I mean, my daughter is up in Salem, my sister is up in Longview, my grandchildren are all the way up into Bellingham, more than 12 hours away. It's a different way of being than in the old days when my great-grandparents came in on Whitman trains and settled in doing orchards. Now, I don't know what is in the future. I can estimate and guess, but I'm going to say that I now sense there's going to be a return to some of the older values because you have not cabin fever, but you're not at liberty to travel like you used to. And at some point, you're going to have a sponsor. It'll be either Hershey or Coca-Cola or General Mills that has a little chip inside you that was sponsored, that you belong to that corporation. And that's what's next in our universe of keeping track of who you are and what you think. I'm very concerned because this is a type of encroachment like religion, where if you don't believe the way I do, you're going straight to heaven if you're not careful. See, I couldn't say the other word. I won't say the other word, but that would have been my preference to say and I don't believe that it works like that. It's basically people are insecure in their belief systems, and so they want validation that they're right and you're wrong. And the thing is, what made us God's favored was choice. And that's why my opinion is that religion does not have the answers any more than science does, and why we have two brains. And that your choice part would suggest that there are as many different religions as there are human beings, and why you would choose to go to a specific church or have a certain belief in science is to reinforce that value as fellowship. And I am now understanding better what Alan Watts used to try and teach in his forms of lessons in Buddhism and related. I don't know what I know. What I do know is what I don't know. And I don't think that anything of mine is real, because I have already seen in my own life a physics that I absolutely validated change. That was when I was in John Lilly's labs and said the dolphins' language was more complex, and it was a form of Clifford algebra, dimensional math. And that part was true. What was not true 40 years ago that is not true is that the dolphin are not speaking. They're sending pictures. Now, man didn't even conceive of that concept 30 years ago. And yet, I've watched my own concept. That's, a picture is 1,000 words. Now, there's a mammal that is more evolved in capacity, and it's chased as food chain by another mammal that has access to 9/10 of the biosphere, and man is lucky to even be able to manage 1/10 of the biosphere. Who's superior? And why is it about food chain?
Well, that's a really good point, because at the in the news that we've heard here at USA Prepares on Genesis Communications Network, top and the bottom of their news, Nancy Pelosi can't even seem to wash and blow dry her own hair. And
I saw that. If there's something, there's going to be an opinion about everything. And why the reason she's being dissed is the same reason she dissed the president during a presidential address by ripping his speech up behind his back on national news. Now, was that appropriate?
Of course not. Of course not.
Well, then why did she do it? And why was it okay?
Because she feels that she is superior, and she's a me-firster, and she deserves to be able to do whatever she wants.
Our first problem is in religions, for example, the primary teaching of Christ was not to make judgment on another person. You could judge yourself because you're trying to become a better person, and you may judge yourself and finding error in yourself, but to look at it in someone else, in psychology, they call that projection of the shadow. And in order to, Christianity heads up, because when you find evil in something else, the only reason you can say it, according to Jungian psychotherapy, is that it existed in you. And what you're actually doing is projecting your value onto them, has nothing to do with them.
So Rick,
here we are.
You're a few years older than I am, and you've got
you've
got a few more years of experience and observations and drawing conclusions than I. Have you ever? Because I haven't. I have never seen a more vicious culture in the United States of America in my entire life as I'm witnessing
right now. Yeah, I absolutely concur. Here's the point, though. No matter what else is said, the U.S. government, as it is still the finest thing that has ever happened in recorded history over Rome or anything else. And you don't scrap something, you fix it.
I heard you say that. I happened to tune into a broadcast that you were on, and you suggested that I tune in, and I did. And I heard you say words that were equivalent to that, where the host said, we need to break apart as a union, and you came to the response, no, we need to fix it. And I'm with you. We need to absolutely fix this.
Because it's still, no matter, even in all its failings, it's still better than Iraq, where the woman is worth half a man.
So there's New Jersey is proposing the corrupt, used to be Garden State. New Jersey has extremely fertile ground, probably some of the most fertile ground in the United States of America, happens to be paved over with concrete, buildings piled on top of it, and made into roads and parking lots. So it's the former Garden State, but the soil was dark. It was beautiful, beautiful soil. Well, anyway, the former Garden State, the corrupt state of New Jersey, allows what's called high-frequency trading. So if I understand this concept right, so what happens on the exchanges, like the New York Stock Exchange, etc., there are people who place orders. So you may place an order to buy 1,000 shares of XYZ, and your order gets entered. But with high-frequency trading, what happens is a computer intercepts that transmission into New Jersey, and a computer says, hey, someone's buying 1,000 shares. We'll buy it before they buy it. because they're going to drive the price up. So we'll buy it now. Then they'll buy it at a higher price than we just paid for it. And then we'll sell it right after they buy it and make a quick profit. Small profit, but real fast. And it happens at like 10,000 times a second that this high frequency trading occurs. So New Jersey allows this. That's corruption. That is meddling. That is interfering with commerce. But they allow it. And they figured out that, what we can do to make the situation better for the corrupt former Garden State is they're going to tax it. They're going to tax high-frequency trading. Instead of eliminating it, instead of making the playing field fair and level and reducing corruption and greed and fraud, they're going to tax it. That's what's wrong with the United States, and we need to dismantle. Rick, here's an interesting story. There's a 41-year-old man that just made the news. His name is Daniel Prude, P-R-U-D-E. And he was running naked through the streets and picked up by the state police in Rochester, New York, upstate New York.
Rochester.
And so, this is going to cause more rioting and more burning. There's no question about this. So this man, this is headline news on Daily Mail. So this 41-year-old black man was running through the streets nude. And so the state cops came, and there were a bunch of them. And they put him down, they sat him down on the pavement, and they handcuffed him. Then they put a bag over his head, a mesh bag. And then they put their knee, I guess, on his head and neck, and he stopped breathing. He died. So the coroner said that it was homicide because of complications of asphyxia from the physical restraint, as well as PCP intoxication. So this guy was high.
Oh, as well as PCP. Let's not forget that. It was tranquilizer.
Yeah. So here he is on the road, and the police, to keep him safe from himself, murdered him. Now this is making the news because the family wanted this to come out. This was all kept quiet. Well, now this is one more incident, and there's a video of it, and I'm looking at the 4 cops at least in the video, and there's more around him. They killed him. So there were 4 there, and it looks like 6 cops were involved. Now, this kind of stuff is the fuel that's being added to the fire of the protests, which are turning down into the bashing, crashing, slashing, bashing, busting, and burning of the United States cities. So this has got to stop. And so if you're involved in the alleged protecting and serving of we, the villagers, you got to pay attention to this, because this is what's causing these riots. And people
I appreciated that one cop this morning on national news that said, if you shoot us, we are going to shoot back.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And why are these 300 gangs in Chicago? Why do they have this agreement among, the gangs? These are competing gangs, right? These are rivalry gangs that have come to agreement that if they see a policeman pull a gun on a suspect, they're going to video that. And once that is videoed, that cop has a death warrant on his life by those gangs, those 300 gangs. Now, there's thousands of people in these gangs, and what they're saying is, you pull a gun on us, we're going to kill you. That's what they're saying. I'm not saying to do that. That's what these gangs are saying.
Well, the same Chicago police show an individual in uniform changing inside a car to become a rioter that throws a firebomb. How's that one work? Mm-hmm. We are infiltrated, and you can't believe anything. And gangs are, for Jesus. Gangs are for Sturgis. There's lots of different gangs.
Right.
Jerry Falwell comes to mind. You know, you can't believe anything anymore. Even the sacred is not.
You know, Rick, I used to literally drive past Jerry Falwell's house when I lived in Virginia, once a month maybe or more, on the way from the farm to Lynchburg, Virginia to, go shopping at Sam's Club, for example. And he had his own airstrip and his own hangar.
How does that work?
Praise the Lord. We need more money. God needs us to get closer.
That's George Carlson. God has everything, but he needs more money. Yeah, right. That's George Carlson. I can tell you that none of it's right. And the only answer is inside yourself. And it may very well be quite different than mine. And that's okay. That's what made us God's favorite, is the diversity of mankind. But this concept of you trying to hurt me because of my value, that's Liber Oz. Liberoz. Look that one up on the internet. What language do you want it in? Because it's translated in all the languages. And that's, again, like Ben Franklin, the distinction between natural and civil rights, Hobbes and Kant. And when you give up some of your natural rights for civil law, what you're doing is incurring a moral obligation. And that's the distinction between ethics and morals. And walking your talk is a whole lot different than what most people think it is. Good luck with that.
Yeah, and in Los Angeles, they're going to furlough 15,000 alleged government employees. That is proof that the United States of America is unraveling quickly. Rick, thanks so much for being with us. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.